No contact tracing, no active surveillance, only 20% RT-PCR tests, no containment zone notified. These are some of the glaring lapses pointed out by a 6-member central team that visited Kerala. The state has been battling a surge for several weeks now. Active COVID cases refuse to go down in Kerala, even as the situation improves in several other states, including Maharashtra. The question then is the Kerala model crumbling?
A state which built the reputation of a COVID fighter, facing India's worst surge with over 50% of all cases. Is the Kerala model crumbling? The 6-member central team sent to Kerala has found lapses that may have proven costly. Among other things, the team found not very well-defined containment zones in the state. The report says they are not strictly cordoned off. The state also fares poorly in contact tracing of positive cases, and a sense of complacency is creeping in. The team found central advisory on isolation and social gatherings getting ignored.
The central team of the Union Health Ministry and the NCDC visited 8 districts in Kerala. Of these, most districts had the highest test positivity ratio of more than 10%. The report submitted said that Malappuram district has a highest positivity rate of 17%. In fact, the case fatality ratio in the state of Kerala is about 0.5%. But May data shows that most of the cases circulating in the state right now are due to the Delta variant.
The violations are specifically glaring in Malappuram district, which has the highest number of daily new cases.
Around 49.85% of the total cases last week में वह केरला से रिपोर्ट हुए हैं.
The actual figures may be even more, since testing is taking place only among the symptomatics reporting at health centers, and no active surveillance is happening. Even the contact tracing is low, with a case-contact ratio of 1:15. This is crucial since average family size in the district is above 5, which means that even primary contacts are getting missed out. This is leading to an undetected pool of asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic individuals in the community. Well, this draft report prepared by the Central Ministry's team has been accessed by India Today, and it seems to be suggesting that Kerala is fatigued when it comes to handling this infection. The central team clearly says that the effort is now only on mitigation, and that really is not correct. The good old method of containment strategies is something that Kerala needs to go back to. But Kerala government and some experts don't agree.
നമ്മുടെ ദൈനംദിന രോഗികളുടെ എണ്ണം മറ്റു സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളെക്കാൾ ഉയർന്നു നിൽക്കാനുള്ള സാധ്യത ഏറെയാണ്. എന്നാലും മരണനിരക്ക് കുറഞ്ഞ നിലയിൽ നിലനിർത്തുന്ന കാര്യത്തിലും ഓക്സിജൻ, വെന്റിലേറ്റർ എന്നിവ രോഗികൾക്ക് ലഭ്യമാക്കുന്ന കാര്യത്തിലും കേരളം ഇന്നും മെച്ചപ്പെട്ട നിലയിൽ തന്നെയാണ്. മരണനിരക്ക് നമ്മുടെ സംസ്ഥാനത്ത് 0.5% അഖിലേന്ത്യാ ശരാശരി 1.34%.
Relaxations for Eid did not endorse mass gatherings, and they did not happen, and that was confirmed during the visit of the central team to Kerala. What is concerning is because of the fast spread of Delta variant, and also because many people who have been vaccinated are also picking up infection, they could not only be sources of infection but also act as spreaders.
The central team prescribes better containment, contact tracing and stricter home isolation for Kerala to come out of the COVID quagmire. With Milan Sharma in New Delhi, Sneha Moldani for India Today.
So contact tracing per positive case very low. In spite of increasing trajectory of cases, average testing shows a downward trend. Now, these are some of the findings of this draft report accessed by India Today. Does this then raise serious questions about this Kerala model? Joining me on the Newstrack, a panel of 3 doctors. Dr. Anish is a member of Kerala COVID Experts Committee. Dr. Fuad Halim is a leader of the CPIM. Dr. Sanjeev Bagay is chairman of Nephron Clinics. And of course, Tom Varakan, the spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And Dr. Anish, if I may start with you, sir. We heard so much about this Kerala model, but with the state accounting for about half the cases in our country, This draft report has raised some serious issues about standard operating procedures not being followed effectively. Contact tracing, for example, it's abysmally low, says this report, sir.
Whenever a central team of doctors or experts says something, definitely we have to take it very seriously. And definitely we have to address those issues. No doubt about that. But you look at the real data. What is meant by containment? Containment means you are not allowing the infections to occur. Which state in India was containing the second wave of COVID-19? That is very much evident from the serosurveillance report of ICMR. And Kerala is significantly had lesser number of infections, just 44%, even though Kerala has reported large number of vaccinations compared to another average Indian state. What does that mean? That means containment strategy was most effective in Kerala compared to any other part of the country. That is, otherwise, what is the reason for this much low seroprevalence in Kerala? That is the first question. So that itself shows that Kerala's containment strategy is much better than the other states.
So, now, I mean, look at the disconnect then between what the state says and what the central panel says. You say containment strategy is extremely effective. The center says that's not true. But Tom Vadakkan, sir, let's take this point by point. Let me bring in Tom Vadakkan. Tom Vadakkan, Kerala's Health Minister Veena George insists that the total number of cases are below what the Kerala government describes as the medical capacity level of the state, which means Kerala is saying no one has died because of either shortage of oxygen or unavailability of either beds or medical attention. Cases may be high, deaths are low. Kerala is being unfairly targeted, Tom Vadakkan.
This is a misleading information. I've said this on your channel time and again. This whole business of managing the medical team through a PR company which puts out figures, fudges figures, and misleads people. This Kerala model was a big fraud. You may give statistics and statistics to prove that you are correct. But the point is, people who have died are witnesses to these accounts. They are dead. They can't speak. The point here is Kerala government went in for a huge cover-up during that period and continues to trail the cover-up, refusing to identify the issues despite an intervention of the Supreme Court. Now a central team has actually unveiled the truth. They won't believe it still. There's a health minister saying, well, you know, we follow the UN regulations. What is this? I mean, you compare with the other states, saying your facilities are wonderful, no contact tracing, home isolation. I mean, it's a horrible situation. What is this home isolation? You have no quarantine facilities, and if you have it, it's functioning at a level where people don't want to go. So why is it so? A total failure, administrative failure. This is not
That's
about
a grave charge you're leveling, sir. There are two very major charges that you're leveling at the Kerala government. And Dr. Fuad Halim, one charge, Kerala is fudging numbers. The second charge, they've hired a PR agency to mislead through actual data, and that there is a cover-up that is underway. Sir, you heard the Kerala representative and you've seen the central report. The report is in variance with claims made by Kerala government. For example, even on contact tracing, the draft report says even primary contacts are being missed out, asymptomatic, and those with mild symptoms, according to this draft report of the panel, are undetected, Dr. Fuad Halim.
Well, you see, I will just quote the government figures on this. And if you look at the ICMR serosurveillance report, then you will see that the ICMR, which is a government agency, has said that for every case that was detected in Kerala, Kerala mixed out only 6 cases. Whereas the All India figures, states have missed out 10 to 20 cases for every case that they have found out positive. So the ICMR has actually congratulated the state of Kerala for detecting the highest percentage of cases among the available infections in Kerala. Now, because Kerala has done that, the process by which you achieve that is through contact tracing. So indirectly, the ICMR has actually accepted that Kerala has actually chased those people who have been positive. They have chased those people who have come in contact with the people who have come positive, which is why, number one, the ratio to the positive and the missed cases is the lowest for all the states in India. So as far as contact tracing goes, I think so the ICMR is at variance with the central government's report.
It indeed appears to be the case, and Tom Vadakan, you must explain that, because let me before I bring in Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, I want to come back to Dr. Anish. Dr. Anish, if I quote from the draft panel, draft report of the panel, it says contact tracing is abysmally low, and with a case contact ratio of 1:1.5. This is more important as average family size in the district is above 5, implying that even primary contacts are being missed out, Dr. Anish.
Whenever we have got a data with us, and whenever you have got a perspective or opinion with us, which one is more dependent? The data that we are saying, it is not it is collected by Kerala government, it is collected by union government. The union government themselves say that Kerala's contact tracing is much good. As you compare how many cases were picked up in Kerala, how many tests were done in Kerala, and how much vaccination. Vaccination along with Kashmir and some eastern Indian parts, Kerala is topmost in the vaccination. So it is clear that we are 20% below the zero positivity. That means 20% of Kerala has got an additional chance of getting infected because we are trying to catch up with an average Indian state.
Okay, Tom Vadakan disagrees with you, but Tom Vadakan, how do you explain the state saying that ICMR data shows that Kerala's testing and contact tracing is good, and this panel saying that contact tracing is very low and case contact ratio again extremely low?
The ICMR gets its data through sources of the state government. Fudging starts at the grassroots. The figures given to the ICMR are fudged. So based on that, ICMR comes to some conclusion. Now, here are
ICMR themselves
doctors who went to the ground.
ICMR has their own process of harvesting data.
And are now exposing.
Mr. Tom Vadakan, you're ill-informed.
These are professional doctors.
Mr. Tom Vadakan, you are ill-informed. The ICMR has its own process of conducting its tests and harvesting data. Please don't not misinform the nation.
But based on data which is fudged, I'm sorry, you say that it's collected.
If you are accusing the ICMR of generating fudged data, then it's very unfortunate.
Dr. Bagai, let me bring you in.
It's a reality. It's the dead people who don't tell tales. The ground reality is you have fudged figures. Now you're going to go into a review of how many people really died of COVID because there was a huge cover-up. Why don't you have the figures of people who died? Why do you need a review with that? That speaks of the double speak that the practitioners of the CPM government.
Tom Vadakan, number one, you are misinformed. You do not know that the ICMR harvests its own data. Secondly, the data that has come out on the mismatch between the number of deaths this year compared to the previous year, that mismatch is clearly saying that Kerala has the lowest percentage of mismatch compared to the other states in India. So again, the data that you are trying to refer to goes in favor of Kerala's record and does not actually create any foundation for your argument. So I think so that if as a central government representative, if you are representing the central government and the Bharatiya Janata Party, you need to resolve the two types of data that the central government is putting across to the people of India. Get the ICMR data reconciled with this committee that has come to Kerala, and then you speak in one voice. If you cannot speak in one voice, I think so the central government is playing politics with this most unfortunate situation.
The report on Malappuram, for example, points out that contact tracing is not being done effectively. 91%, according to this report, are in home isolation, and even immediate family members are at risk. The report also raises serious question about contact tracing of family members. So, in your appreciation, is there a flaw in the Kerala model, or is there a flaw in the data in this draft report and the ICMR report as being pointed out by Dr. Fuad Halim and Dr. Anish?
Good evening, Gaurav. Good evening, everyone on panel. Gaurav, just allow me a couple of minutes because I want to put some scientific facts in the framework so that all the doubts are eliminated immediately. I think if you put anti-science, religion and politics into a mixer, you're going to have grave and lethal consequences. Now, we are obviously seeing that 3% of the Indian population, which Kerala has, is contributing close to 50 or beyond 50% of active cases day on day add-on. It's important to understand that almost 75% of all infections of COVID are asymptomatic and 33% of them are going to land up into long COVID, which have lethal consequences. We are not dealing with the original strain. We are dealing with the Delta strain.
Yes.
This is the only strain in which it has changed the RO from 2 to 2.5, now reaching up to 8. What does this Delta variant do? It's 1,260 times carrying the more viral load on day one. It's 225 times more transmissible. It is giving a death rate of more than 225%. It is giving a hospital admission rate of more than 287%. Keeping those statistics in mind, what is important to understand is that unscientific sudden relaxations, either in terms of restrictions and then suddenly superficial band-aid kind of weekend restrictions and lockdowns are unscientific. I'm not getting into the religion or the politics of it, but what Kerala needs to do now is, there is no Kerala model to begin with. There is no state model. There are internationally accepted guidelines which ICMR is following. Those guidelines need to be followed.
Okay.
And I don't want any to be backslapping in self-praise and loath that we've done very well. This is a bushfire which has started now. This could very well turn out to be the third wave in initiation. Go back to the basics.
Okay.
Contact tracing, testing.
Sir, respond to Dr. Anish, and I want to bring in Dr. Anish and Dr. Bagai. Since you're both medical professionals, Dr. Anish, it's not just about low contact tracing according to this draft report. Now, this draft report accessed by India Today also says, in spite of increasing trajectory, week on week average testing is showing a downward trend in Kerala. So cases are going up, testing going down. Dr. Anish.
I don't think the testing is going down. It's actually testing is going up, and we are actually average around 2 lakh tests per day, which is the highest in India.
No, so which means you're raising serious questions about this report, about the findings of this report, Dr. Anish. Kerala does not agree with this central report, that means.
But if you look at you can also just check the test data, and you can find that Kerala is having the highest test per day. That may be because of the number of cases, that I agree. And I have got two other things. One thing is, it is Delta. If you go out, you may get infected. So it is not wise to put people for infinite point time in quarantine or in lockdown. So it has got serious economic and social side effects. So that the BJP and Tom Vadakan can actually arrange vaccines for our state, so that it will be better, so that we can counter the situation.
Dr. Bagai disagrees with you. Sir, also respond to Dr. Bagai's point. 3% population, close to 50% cases, somewhere down the line, Kerala backslapping itself, saying we've done very well and the Kerala model is a success, doesn't seem to hold true, according to Dr. Bagai. Dr. Anish.
Can I see another data that Kerala has reported? Almost 30 lakhs cases, that is 3 million cases. Okay, it is somewhere around 10% of the state's population. But you know that only 44% is the zero prevalence. An area where the 44% of the zero prevalence reported, as high as 10% of its population as test positive. But in India, you look at only 3 crores, that is only 2.5% of the population. But the zero prevalence data is saying that it is 65%. The all India level, 65% of them might have infected, but they are reporting only 2.5. And in Kerala, only 44% is infected, and they are reporting 10%. That means it is the case picking is much more in Kerala.
You're saying you're testing more. Tom Vadakan, that's the point that Veena George, the state health minister, is also making. Kerala tests more, so more positive cases come out, and she's giving statistics. 1,63,000 tests on day 1, close to 2 lakh tests on day 2. More tests, more cases, Tom Vadakan.
Gaurav, I look at the statistics put out by Dr. Anish, and the Honorable Health Minister, as Winston Churchill once mentioned, lies, damn lies, and statistics. The reality is much more different. Dr. Anish may have the capacity to defend his state, understandably. But my case is I'm a Keralite. First, I come from Kerala. I dread to take up a phone from Kerala because I know something tragic is happening. For the last 6 months, there's been reports of serious ventilator problem. You name it, and there's been deaths. And it's been so regular. It's a nightmare. Gaurav, taking up the phone, especially middle of the night, you have a phone call from Kerala saying so-and-so has died and things like that. Now, these gentlemen want to come on national television and lie their head out, saying, well, everything is fine. First, you have to admit there's been a failure. Then only you reconcile to a development process. There may be weaknesses. You may have failed, but then course correction. You're dealing with human lives, Dr. Saab. This is not just about the CPM government. Governments come and governments go. But you have to stand for the health of the state. You have a responsibility to the people of Kerala. Speaking for the CPM is not your task. Your task is to speak the reality. They talk about Malappuram. Now, let me tell you one example of Malappuram. It is not just Malappuram, Kottayam. Now, point is, for 3 days, for quite some time, you had a triple lockdown in the state. And then suddenly, the bright morning, despite a Supreme Court instruction, what happened was they opened the floodgates. Now, it was not the Muslims alone. It was the Christians, it was the Hindus all coming out. There were deaths across, and the count has not stopped. 23,000 cases today. And this Dr. Anish putting his professional integrity in question. He comes out on television and says and speaks the language that the CPM wants to hear. I'm sorry, this is not about CPM, BJP or Congress. This is about lives of a Keralite.
Okay.
And I'm worried because as an Indian, I'm extremely worried. And as a Keralite, I'm very sad that this is happening to my very state.
Sir, respond, Dr. Anish, before I bring in Dr. Fuad Halim once again, respond to the central panel saying, and I quote, in spite of an increasing trajectory of cases, the week-on-week average daily testing is showing a downward trend. In wards reporting large number of cases, rapid antigen testing is used as a screening tool to test the population. On the 30th of July, 17281 samples have been tested with RAT and 3988 with RT-PCR. Now, this, according to the central panel, is a flaw in the manner in which Kerala is carrying out its tests, Dr. Anish.
Let me tell one thing. One thing is, at the outset, I have mentioned that as the central team is speaking or pinpointing something, definitely we have to look into that matter. And whatever data I have used in this discussion is collected by Government of India. It's not Kerala's data. Okay, that is another point. And third one is, if you just look at the proportion of this PCR, RT-PCR, you may say it is 25%. But what is 25% of 2 lakhs? That is somewhere around 50,000. 50,000 RT-PCR tests is not done anywhere in India other than in Kerala. Then what is the problem for using RAT test for a screening purpose? It is showing that we are able to test even in peripheries, even in areas where the remote areas. We cannot do RT-PCR in remote areas. We can only do RAT test. We just look, you just look at numbers rather than percentage.
Okay, Dr. Bagai, as a doctor who's been at the forefront of battling COVID, you agree in the manner in which Kerala is battling COVID, or is there a flaw somewhere? And I'm not just talking about relaxation at a certain period and a relaxation that may or may not come in the days ahead. So you had Eid relaxation, now you'll have Onam relaxation. God forbid, could that lead to another spike?
Yeah, Gaurav, just a couple of important points. I don't agree with my colleague and respected friend, doctor from Kerala. Please understand what we are dealing with. We are now dealing with a variant which is replicating every 3.5 days. The earlier replication was 8.5 days. Point number 2, the chance of you being unvaccinated and landing up in a hospital is 200 times more and 1,000 times higher rate of death. These are statistics which are published in more than 3,000 international peer-reviewed journals. We know that this is a bushfire. You're lit the bushfire now and you're asking the center to give me a fire extinguisher as vaccines. That's wrong medicine. What you could have prevented, you didn't prevent. I want to repeat it as a summary point, Gaurav. Allow me just 30 seconds. We have to go back to the basics. There is no fictitious Kerala model. We have to go back to the basics of social distancing, masking, contact tracing, early identification of cases, and isolation. If we don't do it, Kerala will be the first state to start the third wave in India. Mark my words loud and clear.
Sir, scary thought, Dr. Fuad Halim. Your diagnosis, sir, because this multidisciplinary central team has actually advised the state active surveillance and contact tracing. The state's categorization, this report points out, of districts into A, B, C, D on the basis of test positivity rate is not showing the expected results. Cases are spiking and restrictions and relaxations are not working. Dr. Halim.
Well, number one, I find it very unfortunate, and I must disagree with Dr. Bagai that he does not conclude in his conversation a place for vaccination in countering the pandemic. Let's be very clear. In a pandemic situation, you've got the state which has to play its role. You've got the center that has to play its role. The state in Kerala has played its role, and it has been effective in securing its population with a low seropositivity. That's very clear. The Kerala model has worked over there, which is why they've been able to hold on to a very low seropositivity. It's now the role of the center to ensure that those people who are susceptible, those people who have not been exposed to the virus should get the vaccine in time. Now, that is where the center has failed. Let's be very clear. We have been successful in delaying the infections in Kerala in the hope that the susceptible population will be secured by vaccination. That is not happening in Kerala at this point of time. Secondly, the genomic sequencing which had actually revealed the Delta variant was because Kerala is sending the highest number of samples for genomic sequencing in India at this point of time. They started off genomic sequencing even before the central government set up the nodal agency. So the discovery of the Delta variant is because of the productive
Kerala does all of this, and then when cases are spiking, gives Eid relaxation. You know, at a time when everyone is advocating against it.
That the public health measures were not supplemented by the central government's availability of vaccines, and economic decisions have to be taken in the interim.
Okay.
And these two have got married together, and we have a situation that needs to be tackled. It's very unfortunate that 56% of the population in Kerala has been protected by the government of Kerala. The government of India is failing to protect them with the vaccination provisioning.
Tom Vadakan, respond.
Gaurav, just allow me a second, please.
Well, you know,
Gaurav, just allow me a second.
So quickly, Tom Vadakan, to respond on the political aspect that the center has failed to provide adequate number of vaccines, and then you on the medical point.
There were no vaccines. But when the state pointed out, when the central government pointed out that there were 10 lakh vaccines, they went into a spin. And then overnight, that vaccine was effectively used. First, a statement saying there's no vaccine. Now, you can't put in, without regulating the system, where you don't have social
are you satisfied with the level of vaccination provisioning that is being done by the central government? Are you satisfied with that?
You go ahead and do what you think is basically what is called religious games that you play. Now, that won't work. This is about
Mr.
life.
Barakkam, are you satisfied with the number of vaccines that are being provided?
The point here is you have failed miserably. The people of India have seen it. And now to blame the center, well, vaccine is not coming. Center has given enough and continues to give vaccine enough for the state of Kerala.
Mr. Tom Vadakkam, I think so. Your own government does not agree with your statement, because your own government is very clearly saying that its schedule has been delayed. Your central government itself has come across very categorically and saying that it should have provision for more vaccines earlier on. So let's be very clear. I think so. The central government and the BJP is now speaking in different voices on this question as far as vaccine provision is concerned.
That's a wrong fact. We know how much of vaccine has been given. We will do an audit and we'll tell you how much of vaccine has been used.
When you will
Okay,
do that,
Dr. Bagai, on the medical aspect of it, and that's why we have three doctors on the panel. The report also says those reporting symptoms are, they are coming forward for testing. The strategy, according to the central panel, should be of containment zones on the basis of cluster of cases, then creating a buffer zone. This needs to be followed 100%. Is this an indication that it's not being followed effectively in Kerala? Dr. Bagai.
Yeah. Gaurav, very quickly, I don't want my friend from the political party CPIM to misunderstand. I don't fault him for not understanding medicine. It's not his fault. There is no question that vaccine.
Sir, he's a medical doctor himself, sir.
So you didn't use vaccine. You did not suggest vaccine in your conversation, which is why I brought it to your notice, sir. Vaccines are the cornerstone of countering this pandemic at this point of time, sir.
Absolutely. Dr. Halim, you've made that point. Dr. Bagai, go on, sir.
So there is no question about it that vaccines are the major weapon which we have to fight this pandemic. I've been shouting my lungs off for the last 18 months that vaccines, and mask up. There are two important points which I want to make. When you have clusters, the contact tracing becomes virtually impossible. Clusters, closed spaces, and especially in festivals, have an attack rate of more than 87%. One index person, even if he's a silent super carrier, can infect more than 80,000 people in 14 days over 10 layers. That's the extent. And what we are seeing now is exactly the repercussions of that. Please understand that an unvaccinated population.
But do you believe that the low provisioning of vaccines have a role in this situation in Kerala?
Dr. Anish, Mallapuram, and I want to keep moving on to different points that have been pointed out in this report that's been accessed by India Today. Dr. Anish, Mallapuram has shown an upward trend in test positivity rate according to JS Health Love Agrawal. Is this then an indicator, sir, that Eid restrictions should not have been lifted and Onam festivities could perhaps lead to yet another spike, Dr. Anish?
Definitely there is a chance of yet another spike during Onam season because the interactions will be more. But we have to be very careful. There is no doubt about that. But you look at Malappuram. Malappuram is the biggest district in Kerala, and it is only one district which has got more than 5 million population. Definitely the number will be more. If you just look at more than 90% of people, infected people are at home, that only means that it is only mildly symptomatic cases. Kerala is picking up more mildly symptomatic cases and keeping them at home. There is nothing wrong in it. How can we say that keeping 90% of people at home is something a fault by the system?
Okay, Tom, quickly respond. Kerala government says it's unfair to question them for keeping people at home. Kerala has managed death rates better. They're also pointing out to another aspect, sir. High population density, 860 people per square kilometer in Kerala, as against the national average of about 430 per square kilometer.
I can't defend this kind of statistics which are put out by vested interests. But let me tell you something, that as to the COVID cases, now quarantine in any other state is based on institutional quarantine. You find somebody at the airport or you at the railway station, you send him home and say, okay, you take care of yourself. And what is the follow-up? What is the contact tracing? Who are the people who are affected? Now, when you send out a person back to his house, and he's come from Dubai, he's come from Qatar or wherever he's come from, there is celebration that, well, he's back. And then part of that, the entire family catches up with COVID. So if you think this is comfort zone, well, God bless you. The reality is you need to function on institutional quarantine, which has been missed out. And people are scared of the institutional quarantine because the facilities provided there are failing.
Okay.
The reality.
Dr. Bagai, last 30 seconds, sir.
You try to do a play to the gallery. Okay, we are sending people home. The point is, it's not enough that you play to the gallery.
Okay, you're saying no time to play to the gallery at this point of time because remember, Onam festivities round the corner. Dr. Bagai, go on, sir.
Just quick bullet points. I think early diagnosis, early intervention, quick testing, rampant testing, promote vaccination, public awareness of no gatherings, be it social, political, vigil or religious or any other reason.
No gathering. That's a very important point to make. But Kerala says, what do we do in a situation where traders put that kind of pressure on people just ahead of Eid or perhaps now ahead of Onam? The latest average weekly rise in Kerala is more than 17%. There are nearly 20,000 cases that are being reported every day. Data also shows that except for Kerala, none of the other cases have active cases over 1 lakh as on date. So states like Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or Rajasthan and Gujarat, they are way below 1,000 as on date. But despite such alarming figures, Kerala government has now decided to relax lockdown norms. There will be no shutdown on Onam either. This after the state relaxed norms for Bakrid. The BJP has once again hit out at the Pinarayi Vijayan government, accusing it of competitive appeasement.
A scary surge in COVID numbers. Kerala steadfastly contributing over 50% of pan-India COVID cases. The state recorded 23,676 COVID cases in 24 hours on Tuesday, the highest surge in any state in 2 months. But amid the big spike in COVID cases and fears of third wave, the Vijayan government has gone ahead and relaxed lockdown, doing away with Saturday lockdown and limiting curbs to Sunday alone. But crucially, Independence Day on August the 15th and Onam on August 22, both Sundays will see no lockdown.
എല്ലാവരും ഒരുപാട് കഷ്ടപ്പെടുന്നുണ്ട് ഇപ്പോഴും ജീവിക്കാൻ വളരെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ് കച്ചവടങ്ങളെല്ലാം വളരെ കുറവ് ഈ ഓണം വരെയെങ്കിലും ഇങ്ങനെ അവർക്ക് തുറന്നു കൊടുത്തത് അത് അവർക്കൊരു ആശ്വാസമാവുമെന്ന് തോന്നണം
നല്ലൊരു തീരുമാനമാണ് അത് എല്ലാവരും പിന്നെ ഇനിയിപ്പോൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും ഇത് ലോകമെമ്പാടുള്ളതാണ് അതുകൊണ്ട് ജനങ്ങൾ സ്വയം മനസ്സിലാക്കി നിയന്ത്രിച്ച് കുറേ കെയർ ചെയ്ത് അകലങ്ങൾ പാലിച്ച് പോകുക എന്നുള്ളത്.
The state had last month allowed 3-day relaxation in COVID curves during Bakrid, also amid the worrying surge in appeasement charges. The state government also allowed 40 devotees inside the places of worship. The left government earlier gave special permission for devotees to assemble at Sabrimala. State Health Minister said that the state expects rush during Onam.
രാഷ്ട്രീയ സാംസ്കാരിക സാമൂഹിക കൂട്ടായ്മകൾ ഉൾപ്പെടെ ജനങ്ങൾ കൂടുന്ന സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ ഒഴിവാക്കുന്ന രീതി പൊതുവിൽ തുടരേണ്ടതായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആരാധനാലയങ്ങളിൽ അവയുടെ വിസ്തീർണം കണക്കാക്കിയാകണം ആളുകൾ പങ്കെടുക്കേണ്ടത്. ഓണത്തിന്റെ തിരക്ക് കൂടി കണക്കിലെടുത്ത് 22-ാം തീയതി ഞായറാഴ്ചയും ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ നിയന്ത്രണങ്ങൾ ഒഴിവാക്കാനാണ് സർക്കാർ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്.
The opposition accuses the Vijayan government of competitive appeasement, saying it compromised the war on COVID by first easing restrictions on Bakrid and now merely trying to right the wrong.
While these so-called left seculars talk about Kanwar Yatra, which never happened though, the state of Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh followed the rules there. They followed what the Supreme Court had advised them. But ironically in Kerala, despite the Supreme Court's reprimand, what the Supreme Court had said was not followed. They chose appeasement over Supreme Court's advice, and the result is in front of us.
Main opposition Congress says Vijayan government is failing in mitigating impact of COVID on economy.
They have reviewed to change the present situation. Present restrictions is only helping it to spread the COVID. That is why they are reviewed and corrected. It's a correct decision. We are welcoming that decision. Today the health minister declared on the floor that we will review the COVID deaths for the last 1 year.
The easing of curbs come with warning of triple lockdown in areas which report more than 10 cases per 1,000 population.
After continuous demands from the opposition and Merchants Association, Kerala government has finally decided to lift the lockdown restrictions across the state. The decision incidentally comes on a day when the Covid-19 central team had submitted a report to the centre stating that the situation in Kerala is not conducive to provide any relaxations. What needs to be seen is how far can the state tame the numbers in the weeks and months to come. With camera person Tinkurat Shegaran, Gopikrishnan in Thiruvananthapuram for India Today.